Okay, so before the break, we talked about some stuff, notes all over the board, and then we started looking at what I feel is a really good way to practice sequential tools, and that is simple drawing with our code. It gives us a good representation, and the sequence is the one that humans do instinctually. We look at some stuff that needs done, and we just immediately know what order to do it in, but we can't take that for granted with machines. So to focus on that, I like to look at graphics. And we did our first little example, just like a math class plot, drew some axes, plotted 2 points, and the sequence matters because we drew the green point first and the red point gets drawn on top of that. So you want to watch the order with those things. Some of this might look familiar. I guess the next one to look at, I'm going to open graphic software like you've probably seen. Anybody on whatever your machine is, you have something like this. If you're on a Windows machine, you have basic paint. I always install something on my Chromebook, but I feel confident Chromebooks got something. There are websites that have our basic drawing things, but when we go to draw stuff, usually in these simple graphics programs, we start with shapes. Like we can draw a square or a rectangle or a circle or a line. Those things we're talking about here, or those other shapes, and we have the colors. So it's basically this, only doing it in code. So likewise, if we have a same thing happens. That's where the sequence comes in. If we have a red square, is that not being filled? They moved all the buttons. There it is. So we can fill it in, and if we draw then a green square on top of it, the one drawn first is in the background. So similar things to that. Let me delete that. Oops. And kind of what I just did there. Select the whole thing and delete it, clear it out of there. That's a good one to look at. In these, we usually have some other tools they've been building for a while. I'll just grab one of the things here. And what I was wanting to do for our example here is get up to a picture. So we'll have something like, I don't know, blue rectangle in the background. And then on top of that, we'll draw a green rectangle to represent our ground. And then a stick man seems like a nice, easy shape. 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and a circle. So not a whole lot involved in doing that with code. Something like that. And we can also load in images. What is this? This is the plan for our picture. We're gonna do something like this in code for our example here. But next thing I want to do is actually show that we can bring in pictures. I was going to use that to sort of introduce something. So I'll do open another window. I'll call it paint picture to bring in that one that it just drew. That doesn't exist, so go ahead and create it. And you might be wondering, how do we bring in a picture? So that's something I wanted to point out. Another thing about Raptors, I mentioned they started creating it back in the mid 1990s, before the internet got as big as what it is today. It existed, but it wasn't as used as often. So our software from back then usually had, any software that's still around from back then usually includes a really great help menu built in. And Raptor is exactly like that. If you go to the help menu, we're in graphics, so we can look at graphics, drawing, that's probably like inserting a picture. So, see, there's a load bitmap thing. So we'll call this pre-made thing for loading a bitmap and store that somewhere and just draw it on the screen. So we have to load bitmap and store that like a variable. And then we invoke our draw bitmap method. So that help menu is there in Raptor as well. So that can be really useful. And so I'll do that. So we'll set some variable. I'll just call it pick. Just need something to refer to it by. The very next thing in the notes is working with variables. So naming how we name them and things. So at some point in module 2, we'll get to that, depending on how long the graphics stretch out. I'm not sure if we'll get that at the end or not. And this is a great way to just experiment with stuff while we have more time at the beginning. A good way to practice getting used to the tools. And well, we just saw there's a pre-built thing, load bitmap. So I'll just start typing until it shows up down here and then hit tab and let the computer do all the typing. And then our file names, file paths, directory structures are always strings. That's sort of across the board in programming. If we want to refer to a file, we have to say the path to where it's at. If it's in the same folder, we can just give it the same name. So for now, if you want to work with files in your code, just put them in the same folder as your program and make sure it's a string. That's what we saw when worked with in our introduction discussion boards, a string of characters. So we need those quote marks explicitly for the symbols. And I forgot what I just called that. Oh, plan pick. Whoops. So I created a picture called
I'm grabbing this from my downloads folder to see users, my name, downloads / the file name.
yes. So okay, if it's somewhere else, you'll want to do the whole. You'll have to do the whole file path.
Okay.
You can do relative file paths. So if it's in the same thing, you just need the name, or if it's in a subdirectory, like if the same folder you're in has another folder in it, and the picture's in there, you can just start where you're currently at. Okay. We'll talk about addresses too, so we can go up and down our directory structure.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if you draw, let's just say, if you don't like draw on, Raptor and everything, but you draw on another, platform or, application and everything, and you save that file, could Raptor run that program still?
Oh, that's what I'm doing right here. That picture that I just drew. I'm getting ready to open it.
Okay, but I mean, just like from open another file that is like not associated with Raptor. Does that make sense?
Oh, no, the Raptor files are something specific. They're a specific type because they include all the information about the drawing and the programming language it's working with.
So it can only be within the Raptor type program. So you can't draw something from another thing and just bring it back in, right?
Oh, we have to import it. So that's what these two steps are, or that previous step.
Okay, I just was curious about that. I just wanted to
know about we can draw it somewhere else and then just load it in here. So for like those interested in games, if you want to do that for your final project, you're probably going to draw your stuff somewhere else and just import it. This time we have this draw bitmap command, and we can see down here what these are called arguments. What arguments are needed in order to invoke, or these are called parameters, and we fill them with arguments. So we have to we need an argument saying what bitmap we want to load. I just called that pick and load it in. Where are we going to put it? I'll say put it 120 pixels over and 234 pixels up. It's on the screen there somewhere. And then how big is it? So make it maybe, I can't remember how big I drew it initially, but I'll make it 75 by 75 pixels. So what image is it? And then where do we put it? Then how wide and tall is it? So basically, these second four things are kind of like a rectangle. What rectangle are we going to load that picture into? This will go ahead and work. Okay, yeah. So you see that it just loaded that picture in. Those are two separate things. So I think I don't want to draw them at the same time. So there's another one we can put in here. Actually, two more. There's clear. We have clear console. That's one you're probably going to want to invoke a lot because the console is all that stuff where our normal text output goes. But we also have clear window. So we can clear our graph window. Whoops. Clear window. And then what color do we want to clear to? Because we can't clear back to transparency. So we could clear to white, or that's sort of the default version. We can make it blue. I'll do black this time just to see something different. There's a short list of colors. We only have about 15 colors to work with in Raptor. If you check the help menu, you'll see the list of all the colors. Or if you just go through the alphabet, A, B, black, blue, brown, C, I don't see any colors there. D, there's a dark gray, which means there's probably a light gray.
Wait,
You can just
there's
go through the
multiple,
alphabet and see what's there.
there can be multiple shades of a color though, even though there's 15.
Yeah, the only ones that there's multiple shades of really are grays. We have a light gray and a dark gray.
Why don't they have it for any other? Like that's just like,
To restrict it, make it less to work with. Make it easier to start with. Because this is just a side feature in Raptor because graphics are a useful tool for learning. It wouldn't be a final version. So there's that picture. Our other one flashed by really quick. So maybe we could leave that on there. So between drawing the math plot and clearing the window, I'm going to add one more in here, which if I start typing, we have delay for some number of seconds. So delay for
5 seconds.
that's kind of long. I was thinking 3.
Okay, sorry. That was a little too.
Because yeah, that's just that math plot. We don't need to see it for very long. 1 or 2 would probably be good. Just that way it's not a quick flash. 3 is probably a long wait. Yeah, 3 is even kind of long. We'd probably go even shorter than that. We already saw that picture. We just don't want it to completely disappear on us, but the normal editing. And some of y'all probably guessed really, really quick that those 2 things right there are what we would need for an animation. So I'm going to copy those. I'll hit Control C, our normal Control C, Control X, Control V, copy, paste, cut, paste, Control Z for undo. That's one of the most useful ones. Z as in zoo, or the closest letter to the control key, which should be one of the easiest things to push, is undo. So I'm going to copy those and come over here. So after loading that, I'll paste this and let's say delay for half a second, 0.5. Then I'll do all this again. Only slightly different.
So just copy and paste for an animation.
Yep. I'll make this a little. Yeah, I'll just change it here. So I was going to put that in a variable and change it. So the first time we're at 120. And then a half second later, we'll be at, I don't know, 130. And, oh, we don't have to load the bitmap every time. We already know what the bitmap is. We have to load it once. Then we'll delay, clear the window, paste it in, move another, I don't know, move a bunch this time. Not a super fancy animation. 2 more times is probably good. 160. What's the next one?
70
200.
more.
So it looks like it's speeding up. And note, so it's on the clipboard. I already hit, I'll do it here. So select it. If you prefer, you can right click and copy. And then to paste, you click at the spot you want it to go. So actually go over there and click, and then hit Control V to paste it. Maybe 250. That's probably enough. So it's going to draw that, wait for half a second, clear it off, draw it again, wait for half a second, clear it off. So, but once this moves on, there we go. And that's how we put animations together. I'll do it one more time without, that way the picture stays there. Copy. So copy it, then click where you want it to go, and then hit paste.
No, we need to animate it, but what if you want to make it bigger?
You can change the size.
Get it better, like get it bigger each time. Can you show an example of that, like of the image getting bigger each time?
Yeah.
Since like maybe like becoming like
that's just changing a different number. So we started at 75. So if we change that number instead, so width, I'll change the height. So instead of 75, it's 95. And then
where it like grows gigantic.
95 and 115.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of which number gets changed. So yeah, so just kind of starting here, 95, 115, 135. And then I'll get smaller again. 135, 115. $95. So yeah, that's what I was going to recommend. Just kind of getting some starting points here. And then when we break off for lab time in a few minutes, this was going to be my recommendation for things to experiment around with and try to make it work. So you can see it's moving and getting bigger. And animations are a great way to practice that. But the other thing was just drawing that. Also wanted to show animations because that's sort of a useful one. So if I come back to the main, 2 seconds seems like a long time. Maybe just delay for 1 second. And once again, I'll copy and paste that. So copy to put it on the clipboard, and then click where you want it to go, and then the paste. So we'll delay for a second, and then now we'll draw a new picture. I just put a blank one in and called it last time. We can also come up here and right click and add a subchart. A procedure is a little bit different. If you're in Novus mode, all you will see is the subchart. So we'll get to procedures eventually. So make a new one called, I don't know, landscape. So there it is. And yeah, kind of do the same thing. First thing we want to do is clear our window. So we're ready to draw on it. Did you have another question, Keegan, or is your hand just still up?
My hand is still up. That's kind of weird.
Okay, yeah, you have to manually put it down. This time, I'm doing a little landscape picture, so when I clear the window, I'll make the background blue. That's kind of the same thing as just drawing a blue rectangle everywhere. Then we can draw a rectangle, and let's see. Whoop, I don't want to use that pen. That pen's hard to delete. So we have our scene, and all of it's going to be blue right now. So for some ground for the stick man to stand on, down at this part, I want to draw a rectangle. So grabbing a piece of paper and jotting out roughly what you want to do can be useful. Because also right now, I'll close this, come over to the main. Our window is 765 by 432. So it's 765 pixels this way and 432 pixels this way. And this is wrapped, and in Raptor, our 0, 0 is down here. So to draw this rectangle, well, looks like 0, 0 will be a good coordinate. And the ground we want to come all the way across. So there's our other X coordinate. And then just pick a number for how tall it is. Maybe 50. And sometimes it comes down to just taking a guess. Take a guess on what number seems like it might be a good one and go with that one. So go in here. And once again, we can just draw a rectangle. Oh, draw a box, sorry. They went with the easier word. We're going to draw a box. And like we saw on the board before the break, to define a rectangle, we just need opposite corners. Well, this one we want to start at 0, 0. So it's going to start at that very bottom corner. It's going to go all the way across our screen. So 765 pixels across. And I'm going to guess 50 pixels up and just see what that looks like. That's going to represent ground for our stick man to stand on. So make it green and yes, fill it in. Yes and true are interchangeable in Raptor. And we can run that. Does that, goes through our animation. Oh, it didn't move to the last picture. So part of algorithms and programming is we got to remember every step. So we just did the complicated steps there, all the thinking about what needed drawn, but we never actually asked for it. So back over in the main, we need to switch over and call that landscape subchart. Oops. Now it should draw it. And there's some trial and error. Just kind of pick a starting point and yeah, that looks like it'll work. So now we need our stick man. There's a few things that, let's see, I'll kind of draw, whoops. I didn't mean to stop the screen share. Oh, the pictures went away. Let me draw this back on here. So we got this. We got this. We know the ground is 50 pixels up. So that's where the bottom of our stick man is going to go. So I think we need 2 lines. 50 might be a good number to work with. So I'll go from 50 to 100 as far as up, and then over, I don't know, maybe 300 over, and 320. I'm just taking a guess at how far apart those legs should be separated. And once again, just draw those lines. So you can see there is a lot of repetition here. And think first. If you do the thinking first, a point I'm going to make very soon is anything that can fit in a classroom, Can probably be done without a big formal plan, but we're in a learning environment, so it can be good to think about these, to focus on some of the parts that will be more useful when we're at bigger stuff post classroom. So planned out to say go over 300 and up 50, and then it's going to go up another 50. So it'll, oh wait, then over another 20 pixels is the other leg. So 10 pixels would get us halfway there, and up another 50 pixels. So 100, and I don't know, I'll just draw the stick man in black. And then that's just a line. So there's not really any, anything to fill in. So I'll copy that and paste it for the other leg. So 300, 100 is one of our, we can just start at that point. So I'll just erase those first two numbers so that and we'll start where that other one ended, coming another 10 pixels over and 50 pixels back down. Oh, and I gotta have the commas. I work, get a couple lines there. Hopefully y'all are starting to see now how this process is going to go. It's very repetitive. Programming is like that, working with machine. Really anytime we're working with machines, there's a lot of repetition involved, doing the same thing over and over again. So once again, we need to draw a line. Draw a line. And we know what this pixel is. This is 310, 100. I just made it a point to memorize that. I probably should have said something a moment ago. So start at that same pixel. On a stick man, the line goes straight up. So we're still that same X distance over. So our X value is the same, but our Y value needs to go up. So 250, that might be a good height for a stick man. I'm just guessed a number there. And if it looks too tall or too short, you can come back and make an adjustment. Probably too tall. So maybe cut that in half, see what it looks like. And all this other stuff is running here that we don't necessarily need right now. So I'm going to grab all that and hit Control X to cut it and make a new subchart. Old stuff. Whoop. Notice it didn't like when I put a space in there. So I'm just going to call it old stuff with the words jammed together. Subcharts are also good for moving things out of the way so we can see just the part we're working on. Did you re-raise your hand, Keegan, or is it still up from earlier?
No, I have a so when I saw a video on like this, but it was I don't know what program they used, but they did code a program to recreate Flappy Bird, and it was like this cool they programmed it like, you know, step by step, and did like exactly like that, and created a you know, Flappy Bird, which is not on the App Store anymore.
There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people that enjoy this. I really have fun drawing pictures in code.
Yeah, they drew the bird themselves, and they with the tubes as well. And
so after we finish going over this, that might be a good one for you to kind of give a try to. So I just guessing some numbers. That one seemed a little too short, so I need to just kind of hone in on a number that seems like the right one. So maybe let's go 200. Let's see what that looks like. That'll probably work. I'm not going to sit here and make changes forever, but just take a guess for a starting point and then adjust that starting point. Let's see what else. I guess then we need the arms. So we have a couple more points that we can label. So like, as you're doing this to help keep track of things, draw pictures. So then this is at 200 up. So arms can probably go maybe 30 pixels below it or something as a straight line over. We saw how to do a straight line earlier. I need two of those. Draw a line. And this leg starts at 300. So maybe the arm sticks a little bit past that. 275. And this point is 200 up. So I'll just come back 20, 25 pixels. And then this leg goes to 320. So I'll try coming 25 pixels past that to be symmetric. And it would be the same Y value. Again, just write a line of code, check to make sure it works. And that's going to be a rule of thumb. We go over again and again and again this semester. Run a check every chance you get. Don't try to write the whole program and then test at the end. That'll work for now, but it might look better if the arm's slanted down or something. Y'all can probably easily make that change. What's left? The head of the stick man. So now we need a circle here. We know the bottom of it needs to be 200, so we need to come our radius up. I'm going to take a guess, maybe 40 for the radius on the head. So it's to come up 40 to get to that center, and then it should still be lined up with the center of the legs, which was right here. So draw a circle. I want to come 310 over so it matches where the center of the legs are and the body and everything. Then I'll come 200 pixels up plus another 40. I just took a guess at that number. Give it a radius of 40. I guess the still needs to be black to match that. And yes, fill it in. Oh, wait. I'll put no fill it in because we haven't done an unfilled circle yet. Hopefully all that is making sense, at least get you to a starting point. Oh, one last thing for a landscape, maybe a cloud. So I'll draw another circle. I'm just going to pick something near the top. So maybe 123 pixels over, 378 pixels up, and 80 pixels around. Make it white, and yes, fill it in. And then I'll copy and paste that and do another one. A little ways over with a slightly smaller radius. So a big circle, and I moved over and made a smaller circle so that it something like this to get the general effect of a cloud. But just hopefully the basic idea is there, because that's something I want you to, I guess, kind of play around with. It's a good way to practice stuff. One last thing to give some motivation for this. You see how just drawing a picture is a good way to practice the sequence and the order. And if here I was keeping track of all the numbers on paper, so it's also a good spot to practice variables. We could have like stickman body position as an X coordinate, so that all those spots where we type 310 just referred to that useful reference name. And then you can move your stickman back and forth by changing the value of that variable instead of going back through and changing every single number. So something you probably want to do there is don't use the just arbitrary numbers, actually stick those things on variables so you can move them around and adjust it and kind of see what happens there. Make control cut and move that over here to the old stuff. I'm going to move that back to the main before I send you all this file. One more thing to look at, which will hopefully help motivate a motivating reason to mess with this stuff, is we can also print text there. Which we can print text over in the console, that's no problem, but all we can do is print black and white text. There's an option for font. So if we go to the console, we can print, we have 3 choices in the fonts we use and the size. There's no color option there. So if we wanted our text output to look a little bit better, we could do that here. Some words. Oops. It needs to be, when we name things, we cannot have a space. So if there's going to be multiple words, because you want nice descriptive names, just jam the words together. And we're going to talk about that in more detail soon. That's the next thing in the lecture notes. But this did take a little bit longer than I was anticipating. So once again, I'll start by clearing the window. Clear the window back to light gray this time. Or, yeah, light gray. Oh, I guess we do have a bunch of light ones. I think you asked about that a few minutes ago, Keegan. So it looks like there are a bunch of light blues, light gray, light cyan, light gray. Not a ton of them, but there's a couple of them.
Yeah, I just, that just didn't make any sense. I just like, why didn't they have like multiple shades of like each color? And even if it's
I haven't looked at the whole
much,
list in a while, so maybe that is what the 16 is. It's like our 8 basic colors and then light and dark versions of 6 basic colors.
oh, so it's only just like,
Yeah,
it's not like,
there's not very many. Yeah, so there's like green, light green, and dark green. And just a couple options.
so there's like three with each. So there's probably more than like 16. There's probably more, but it's just like, it's just each, with each updated version, it's like they're gonna add more. So
well, they didn't focus a whole lot on the graphics. They just kept it simple so we don't get lost.
yeah,
that's what a GIF image is.
Importantly about
a GIF image is a bigger version of that. The GIF files, those are restricted to the number of colors they have so that we don't get lost in the billions and billions and billions of options of colors that most of our pictures can handle.
And
so with writing text, so I start looking for it on draw. There's lines, ellipses, circles, boxes, bitmaps, arcs. There's not one for text, but display will work. We can display numbers or display text. So display underscore text. It's what XY coordinate do we want to put it? And the XY is the top left. So the coordinate we put here is this corner of a text box. And then it'll just fill in the text. What text do we want and what color do we want to write it in? So it can look a little bit better than the other one. I don't know, 123, 123. Here are some words, which is a string. So we do need those quote marks explicitly, like we saw in that first example. And what color should we make this? I'll make this light green. Oh, I forgot a comma. And notice we have error message. The error message will show up. Missing closing quote marks. Oh, so actually I think I have too many quotation marks. There we go. Give us those little error messages that kind of tell us what went wrong. Light green kind of shows up. Maybe that should be dark green. Let's see if there's a dark green. Or instead of that, we could put it on a box. And I'll put it down here to begin with. Draw box. Those words are 123, 123. So I'll come a little bit. I'll try to surround that. So say 100, 100. Come over to maybe 75, 75, and come to 175, 175. And that should hopefully surround those words. We'll see in a moment. I'll make it black. The green will show up on that. And then yes, fill it in. Although this one I did make a mistake. Okay, it's not quite wide enough, but notice that the words were drawn first, so the box gets drawn on top of it. So the order does matter, and if you need to adjust that in the flowchart, you can just grab it and drag it. But notice when I grab and start dragging, it disappears. So as you grab bigger and bigger sections of code and move them, you always want to pause and reorient. So like as you move it, it disappears from the picture. I'm still holding down the button right now. So if there's a big section, it'll look completely different. So reorient it and then just drag it to where you want it to go and release the mouse. And that wasn't wide enough. So maybe 375, 375. So again, the order, a spot where the order matters. Probably didn't need to go that big. Actually, that'll kind of work. Yeah, looks like words on a little screen. We can make little panels. I'll throw a number on there as well, just to finish up here. I'll draw another box. Draw a box way far across the screen. So maybe 500 over and 300 pixels up, and make it 550 wide and 320 for height. Oh no, I'll make this red. No, don't fill it in. And I'll draw a number in that, because we also have, along with display box, display text, we have display number. Where we're going to put it, I'm going to put it inside this box. So past 500, maybe 530, past 300, so 350, oh, 310. We'll go right in the middle there. And What number do we want to put there? I'll put the number 10 and make it blue. I'll move it a little bit closer. So 510, 310. Hopefully that'll fit in that box. We can see we can do all our words and numbers and draw some pictures. And that is really good practice for getting started and focusing on the sequencing stuff. And our output can be made to look a lot better, right? So instead of like this console, I did that black with the light green words so you can make it look like the original Apple output, the black with the green text from back in the 80s, way before, back in the 1980s, way before most of y'all were born, or way before any of y'all were born, I'm pretty sure. We can set the stuff up like that. So that is something that I feel is really good practice. Where's the old stuff? So I'm going to move the old stuff all back over to that original one. Cut it from there. Paste it here. So you can see we have a lot. Whoops. Oh, notice that I accidentally pasted it in the wrong spot. So it tried to draw before there was a window there. So lots of different stuff we can do with the graphics, and just get started with the practice of inputting things, looking at the error messages we see, and the order things go in. So to help motivate this, that first, our introduction discussion board, if you want to redo that with a graphics window, so instead of your output your text to the console where it's just basic text, if you output it to a graphics window and make it look a little bit nicer with some colors and some other shapes and decorations around it, I'll make that worth like 10 extra credit points. So that'll be, get a few points for messing around with that stuff, because I think it's a very useful way to practice. And we do have stuff we'll see later where we can click on that. So we can detect mouse clicks and stuff and make an interface, a simpler interface. There's no pre-built parts, so there's a lot of steps, and we're not going to make a super complicated one. We'll like draw a rectangle and then check to see if we clicked in that rectangle. So a super simple interface, but it can be colorful with, it can look a little bit better than just our basic console. And it's a good practice for that. So with that introduction discussion board, just take your same code, and the change you'll want to make, I'll do that real quick, show the change real quick. So I'll come over to some words. So in that intro discussion board, we'd have some variables saved there, right? We'd have like, well, I'll do the same example I was using earlier. I have like name is set to my name, and age, pop in my age there. And then what we had was output whatever stored in that name variable plus what's in that age variable plus years old. What we had for that intro discussion board, where we just printed that to the console. But we could make an easy change there. So we're just printing that out. So instead of printing it, I'm going to copy that or cut it and get rid of the old stuff. And I'll call the display text method. Actually, I'll make this a little cleaner. I'll create another variable here and say, I don't know, message or something like that, and then paste this stuff here. So instead of printing it, I'm saving it somewhere. And then on the display text, I can just print that out. So at 400, 125, 5 over print what's stored in that message saying in the color yellow. Maybe that'll work. Oh yeah, all the other stuff's there. We'll see that in a second. Oh, it went back to the console. But if I come down here, oh, it's behind it. So it popped behind there when I did that to the window. So I probably want to stop that on the window. Let me, so as you do that, you'll want to get rid of that original output and just use the graphical output instead. And then we can get more colorful text and put some pictures around and stuff. And if you do that with that intro discussion board, I will set up a spot where you can turn that in for 10 points extra credit, because using the graphics is great practice at the first thing we want to focus on, which is the sequence, the order we do things in. And that's the first step of studying algorithms, spelling things out explicitly, because the order is the one that comes most instinctual to us. So it's easy to overlook and mess up the order when we feed instructions into a machine. Then I guess we'll jump into the discussion on variables and processing. On Monday is our next class period. The key point as you work on this is you have to be careful with the way you name variables. We're going to talk more about variables, but there's some naming conventions. So no spaces. They have to start with a letter. So you cannot start with a number. Your variable names have to start with a letter. You can use a number afterwards. So you could have like, well, in that intro discussion board, things like hobby 1, hobby 2, hobby 3, if you have more than one thing. Or if you have more than one job, that might be a more common one, right? Job 1, job 2, job 3, and you can add numbers, but you have to start with a letter. You can also start with special characters, change language to language. So for this class, I like to just say, let's avoid special characters. Let's say no special characters in the variable names, because that also depends on the language you're using. So start with a letter, no spaces in them. So if you have more than one word to be descriptive, just jam those words together to store the data. And yeah, you probably encountered some of that setting up that initial discussion board, but if you turn that into graphics, that'll be worth 10 extra credit points. And that is something I feel is a great introduction to, great way to start off, especially focusing on the order things need to happen in, because the order we draw things in defines whether it's drawn behind or in front. The things are drawn behind or in front of each other. Raptor has that great help menu. You can use that. What do we have left? That leaves us about an hour and a half of our scheduled time. And this is an active subject we learn by doing. So I want to make sure there's plenty of time to do stuff. So now's a great time to do that. Work on that extra credit assignment or draw some pictures. If you want to just spend some time drawing a picture, do something a little fancier than that one we did in class. Like instead of a stick, draw a house and a car and things like that for that, to accompany that stick man in the landscape thing. I'll count that for the extra credits as well. So if you spend some time doing that graphic stuff, I'll count it as extra credit things. My recommendation for that though is that intro discussion board, because you already have all the data there and you already have the strings concatenated together. So all you have to do really is change where the output goes. So open a graph window and choose which color to write it in, write those words in, and say what position on the screen to write them in. And that can be a good practice, and it looks a whole lot better than the console. So that'll be worth a few extra credit points, and then we'll get into variables and the basic processing stuff on Monday. Otherwise, we have about an hour and a half left, and for that hour and a half, I'm going to keep my video set up here. This is in my home gym, not in my home office. So I'm going to keep my video set up here, and I will basically be sitting right here waiting for any questions to come in. And while classes are running, the only two things that make noise on my phone are text messages and the Ivy Learn inbox messages.
Whoa,
Either one of those.
I saw your phone. How'd you break it?
Doing what I just did right there. At the end of a lecture, I went to pull it out and said, as always, the text messages and Ivy Learn messages. And when I pulled it out, I didn't hold on to it, so it went flying.
Yeah, I was like,
it still works.
Yeah, so when you pulled it up and when you said that, I was like looking at it and I was like, whoa, wait a minute. He needs to address this.
I use cheap phones, so I'm going to replace it next time I get to Walmart. I just haven't got to Walmart since then.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I treat devices as disposable. All of my laptops are pretty much the cheapest version Walmart sells.
And so
well, my MacBook's a nice MacBook,
lifespan, and then you move on to the next.
There was a scuff mark on the MacBook, so it was $300 off because there's a scuff mark on that plastic case. It surrounds a steel Mac case, so it's not protecting anything. But remember to check clearance racks. $300 off a MacBook was pretty nice.
Since mine was like very, dirty when I got it, like I just got it for cheap, my MacBook. So,
Yeah, so we can talk about that in a moment. But did anybody have any questions about our content from today? And then we'll go ahead and wrap that up, and then we'll talk here in a moment.
I got no other questions.
Are you
the
going
answers
to
were already
submit that file, the Raptor file?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Tyler.
Oh, sorry, Keegan, if I interrupted you. Are you gonna submit that Raptor file so we can look over it? 'Cause
Yes.
I couldn't keep up on some stuff, and my black box is a little.
Yes, we're restricted on time, so I plan on doing that every time.
Okay, thank you.
I will do that right now while we're watching, and an Ivy Learn message, an Ivy Learn announcement.
Amazing.
Yeah, we're restricted on time, so some things do have to go quick.
Oh, you did it well. Like I was following through. It was myself that like lost for a second, then boom, boom, boom.
Feel free to ask me to slow down anytime. An English teacher I was talking to, one of the English teachers not long ago made the comment, there is no such thing as an interruption in a Zoom call. I know since we're little kids, we've been trained to raise our hand and wait patiently, but that doesn't work on Zoom. I may not even see the little hand icon. If you have something to say, just say it.
All right.
Let's see, class example from 321 graphics in Raptor. Oops. Here's the file from today's class. I have to send both of them, don't I? Real quick before I attach it, does everybody know how to unzip a zip folder?
I do.
I can only attach one thing to I can only attach one thing at a time to the announcements. So I have to put it in here. Let's see, this one and this one. Because if you don't have that picture, then that file will crash when you try to run it. So I'll right click and press the zip file. If you're not familiar with it, on a Mac and a Chromebook, just double click and it will open automatically. On a Windows machine, you have to right click and extract all. If you haven't moved to Windows 11 yet, you'll see this window when you right click, and there's just click extract all, and that pulls the things back out of the zip folder. So most of our class examples will be in a zip folder. So there you go. So yes, there's the example from the day. Yeah, so when you go to it's actually right on the homepage. The last 3 or 4 announcements show up right there. but the very second link should be announcements. So it'll be in one of those. And unless you changed a setting, that should also come to your school email. So you should have that example now. If you have any questions from now to 1 till 4:50 our scheduled time, I'm sitting here waiting for questions. Text messages and iRelearn messages make noise on my phone, and I will be able to jump back on a Zoom call immediately. But I do like to go ahead and end the Zoom call because the video won't render down until that happens. And the video will also be available on iRelearn in 2 places. There's a link that says Zoom. I don't have any control over that page, and I like to have a page I have control over. So under modules, up at the top is a section called resources. And as soon as the video renders down, I will copy and paste the link to the video onto this page. And then I also use YouTube for storage. The video won't be there till the weekend, but Saturday morning I upload the lectures onto YouTube, and the link to that is here where it says video lectures. There's the YouTube playlist. But the Zoom link or that place I just said I was going to post it, it'll be there in usually about 20 minutes if you want to refer back to the video. Any questions?
Anybody else interested in cryptology? I'm going to send that list right after this. So if anybody's got any interest at all.
As long as there's at least 2 or 3, Kenyatta is going to schedule that class.
It's not like cryptocurrency, but it is a factor of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Johnny.
Yeah, cryptography has to do with encryption, encoding things, right? The setting up codes, breaking codes. That's what it is. An interesting thing. So
cool.
There's at least 2 people on that list, so that's probably a class that will be scheduled here soon. So it'll be an interesting thing. And yeah, thank you for sending him that.
Of course.
That'll be a fun class.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Okay.
All right. A couple more people. That's good.
Morel said he's interested if you didn't see that.
Alrighty.
Thanks, Morel.
All right. That was 5 seconds. So I assume the silence means no questions. If you have any, let me know.
Bye,
Y'all
everyone.
have a great weekend. Enjoy this weather now that it's turned nice, and I will see you on
I'm
Monday.
definitely gonna enjoy it. Bye, everybody.
Oh,
Have a good one, guys.
Later, all.